You know, there's one book in the Bible that is, without a doubt, the most famous, the most mysterious, and probably the most misunderstood of them all, Revelation. For centuries, right, its visions of dragons and beasts and these incredible cosmic battles have just captivated and, let's be honest, confused a lot of people. It's the grand finale, but for so many of us, it feels like this impossible code. Well, today, we're going to try and change that.
So let's just get right to it. Can we really understand Revelation? I mean, for real. If you've ever opened it up and just felt totally lost, or maybe even a little intimidated by it, you are definitely not alone. It is so full of symbols and strange sequences. I mean, it's launched 1,000 different theories. It's so easy to feel like you need some kind of secret decoder ring just to get past chapter 1. But what if we've been coming at it from the wrong angle this whole time?
Okay, this idea right here. This changes everything. What if Revelation isn't supposed to be some complicated puzzle box for theologians to argue over? What if it's actually a picture book? The source for this whole explainer, Vern Poythress' book, The Returning King, argues this is the absolute key. We're not meant to solve it like a math problem. We're meant to get lost in the story, to see the huge picture, to feel the drama. It's meant to be experienced, not just picked apart.
And this quote, this just nails it. A 12-year-old kid who doesn't have all the baggage of complex charts and end-times theories, he just reads the book and he gets it. He saw the massive struggle between good and evil, the hero king, the monstrous villain. He took it in as this grand, sweeping story, a battle for the universe. He got the main point perfectly because he approached it with his imagination. And that main point is really where our story begins.
So what is this story really about? Well, when you strip away all the layers, what you find is that Revelation is about a great spiritual war. But it's a very specific kind of war. This isn't a battle between two equal opposite forces. No, it's a conflict between the original, that's God and His truth, and a really clever, really deceptive counterfeit. See, the enemy's main strategy isn't to create something new, it's to imitate. And this one theme, this idea of counterfeiting, unlocks the entire book.
So let's look at how this imitation is built. It's not just random, it's totally systematic. Satan, the leader of the forces of evil, he doesn't just fight God, he mimics him. He actually creates this blasphemous parody of the Godhead itself, an unholy trinity that's designed to trick the world into worshiping a lie.
And check this out. This chart just lays out the whole structure of that counterfeit. I mean, look at the parallels. The Bible shows God the Father as the originator, right? The divine planner. Well, in Revelation, the dragon, Satan, he sets himself up as the counterfeit originator with his own twisted plan. Then you have Christ the Son, who is the executor of the Father's plan. The dragon's counterfeit, the beast, a figure who carries out the dragon's will on earth. And finally, the Holy Spirit, who bears witness to Christ. Well, the unholy trinity has its own witness, the false prophet, who does counterfeit miracles to sell the world on the beast. It's a full-on systematic mockery.
Now, let's zoom in on that second relationship for a second, because it's really chilling. In the book of Genesis, God creates man in His own image. But in Revelation chapter 13, we see this dark parallel. The dragon stands on the shore, and out of the sea comes the beast. And the way the beast is described makes it so clear he is an image of the dragon. He has the same number of heads and horns. The dragon is literally making a counterfeit son in its own ugly image, just like God created Adam and just like Christ is the perfect image of the Father.
And this is where the detail of the counterfeit just gets stunning. It's a point-for-point imitation, like a twisted reflection in a mirror. So Christ has many crowns, the beast gets 10 crowns, an imitation of royalty, but a limited one. Christ has these worthy names like faithful and true. The beast is just covered in blasphemous names. Christ has all divine power. The dragon gives the beast great power. Christ receives true worship. The beast gets blasphemous worship from a tricked world. Christ seals His people with His name on their foreheads. The beast forces His followers to take His mark. And here's the big one. Christ has a true death-destroying resurrection. The beast, he has a fake one.
And that right there is the absolute linchpin of the whole deception, the counterfeit resurrection. The world sees the beast and thinks, wow, he had a fatal wound. He should be dead. But it was healed. And this shocking, counterfeit miracle is what makes the whole world just marvel and follow him. It's the centerpiece of the whole trick. Think about it. Christ's true resurrection is the event that draws all people to him. Well, the beast's fake resurrection is the miracle that rallies the world to his cause. It's the ultimate deception because it mimics the ultimate truth.
Okay, so we've met the cosmic players, the Holy Trinity and its unholy counterfeit. But how does the spiritual war actually play out here on the ground? How does it target you and me?
Well, the book of Revelation shows this war is fought on two very different, very strategic fronts.
See, the dragon doesn't just use one tactic. He uses two, and they're embodied by two key figures. First, you have the beast, who represents the attack from the outside, raw power, force, and persecution. Then you have another figure, called Babylon the prostitute, who represents the attack from the inside, subtle seduction, compromise, and corruption. It's like a pincer movement aimed right at the human heart.
So let's break down the beast's strategy. The beast is basically idolized state power. It's the empire, the system, the government that demands your total allegiance. Its weapons are pretty straightforward: fear, threats, pain, and ultimately death. It's screaming, "Worship me or you will suffer. Bow down or I will crush you." It works by scaring people into submission. So what's the response that Revelation calls for against this kind of attack? One word: endurance. The call is to stand firm, to hold on, and just bear up under the pressure without caving.
Now, in complete contrast, you have the second strategy. The prostitute doesn't threaten, she tempts. She doesn't use fear, she uses desire. She represents the seductive pull of the world, the worship of money, illicit pleasure, comfort, you name it. She's the voice that whispers, "Go on, indulge, compromise just a little. Everybody's doing it." She is herself a counterfeit of the true bride of Christ, the church, offering corruption instead of purity. And the call against her is totally different. It's not endurance, it's separation. The book says, "Come out of her, my people." The response is to get away, to refuse to be part of her corrupting system. So you've got this grand cosmic plan of imitation. You've got a two-front war against humanity using both fear and seduction, and it seems terrifyingly effective, right? But here's the thing. Revelation isn't really a book about the power of evil. It's a book about its inevitable failure, and that failure is actually built right into the counterfeit's design from the very beginning.
Okay, let's walk through this logic, because this is the real reason for hope in the whole book. First, the plan's biggest weakness is that it's just a copy. Satan is an imitator, he's not a creator. By choosing to counterfeit God, he is admitting he's not the source. He's dependent on the very God he hates for his whole playbook. Second, his great champion is a beast. Not some higher being, but a subhuman, monstrous thing. The whole movement is literally dehumanizing. And third, and this is the kicker, that seals its own doom. Why? Because of the way creation was set up in the first place.
And this slide just ties the whole biblical story together perfectly. Way back in Genesis, the first man, Adam, is given dominion to rule over the animals, over the beasts. That's the created order. So it's only natural that in the final book of the Bible, the last Adam, the perfect man, Jesus Christ, will fulfill that original command and rule over this ultimate beast. The beast's very nature as a beast means it is destined to be ruled by the true man. Its failure is literally written into its own DNA.
So this incredible cosmic drama, this picture book of spiritual war, it isn't just some story about the future. No, it's a revelation about the nature of reality right now. And it presents all of us with some pretty profound lessons and an ultimate, unavoidable choice.
The first, and maybe the most jarring lesson, is that from a spiritual point of view, history is bipolar. There is the way of the Lamb, and there is the way of the beast. There is the kingdom of God and the kingdom of the dragon. There is no middle ground. There's no neutral territory. Revelation forces us to see that everybody, one way or another, is giving their allegiance to one side or the other.
So let's just break down these practical takeaways. First, the danger. The counterfeit works so well because it's close to the truth. That's what makes it so deceptive. But there is also hope. The enemy is only an imitator. He's not an originator. He's fundamentally limited. Third, Revelation gives us clarity. It pulls the mask back. The world might be in awe of the beast's power, but the book shows us how ugly and subhuman it really is underneath. And finally, the most profound lesson is about control. Revelation shows that God is so completely sovereign, so in control of history, that he even weaves the rebellion and evil of his enemies into his own plan to bring about his final victory.
You know, in the end, the entire message of this cosmic picture book can really be boiled down to this one ancient challenge. It's a call that echoes all through history, from the Old Testament prophet Joshua right to the final pages of Revelation. It's a question that confronts every single reader in every generation about where their loyalty truly lies.
So we're left with this. Revelation isn't a puzzle we're supposed to solve, but a reality we have to face. It paints this incredible picture of a spiritual war with two sides, two kings, and two very different destinies. It shows us an original and a very, very clever counterfeit. And so the question, at least for us, isn't about timelines or trying to predict the future,
It's about allegiance. In a world so full of subtle counterfeits, what does it look like for us to make sure we are really and truly following the original?